Right, so let's jump into today's deep dive, February 11th, 2025, and we're going to be looking at Tesla stock, trying to get a sense of what's really going on with this company that everyone's always talking about. We're looking at earnings reports, analyst opinions, and you know, potential risks and opportunities, all that good stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting one to watch how Tesla's doing. I mean, the stock is currently trading at $350.73. That's down about 3% from just yesterday. And if you take a look back over the past 6 months, the average price target from all these analysts has been hovering around $331.06. But even with, the stock maybe not doing as well as some people would hope, the Model Y is actually the top-selling car globally right now.
Interesting. Okay, so it's kind of a mixed bag then, right?
Yeah.
Global bestseller, but the stock price isn't really reflecting that same success. So what's the story there?
Well, there are some analysts like Dan Ives over at Wedbush. He's super optimistic, and he set a price target as high as $550. But then you've got others like Chris McNally at Evercore ISI, and they're a bit more cautious. Their target's sitting around $275.
Whoa, okay. That is a pretty big gap between those two. What's causing that difference of opinion?
Well, I think one of the big factors is looking at Tesla's recent performance. They did report record vehicle deliveries in the last quarter of 2024. And, as you said, the Model Y was a big hit. But their automotive margins, so the profit they make on each car they sell, that actually declined a little bit because they had to lower prices to manage inventory.
Ah, I see. So even though they're selling more cars, they're making a little bit less profit on each one. Makes sense. Okay. But their energy storage deployments hit all-time highs too, right? So at least that part of the business is doing well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Tesla is actually projecting at least 50% growth in that area just in 2025. Plus, they're planning to launch a more affordable electric vehicle model sometime in the first half of this year.
Okay, so those are some potential positives for the future. But we got to talk about, the big elephant in the room with Tesla. Full self-driving, or FSD. Where does that stand right now, and how do you see that impacting their future?
Yeah. FSD is the big question mark for Tesla. I mean, it really has the potential to be a game changer for them, maybe even for the entire transportation industry as a whole.
Right.
If they can perfect it, they could license the technology to other automakers. And that would be a huge GE source of revenue for them.
That would be incredible. But it does sound like there are a lot of ifs still in there. So what makes FSD such a gamble?
Well, the technology is still under development. It's really not clear when it'll be fully ready for widespread use. Plus, there are all these regulatory hurdles to overcome. And of course, you can't forget about the safety concerns that need to be addressed. It's a lot to figure out. And, on top of all that, we can't forget about the competition. The electric vehicle market's getting more and more crowded these days. Tesla's facing pressure from, those established automakers, but also all these newer companies popping up, especially in China.
Yeah, that's right. You hear a lot about companies like NIO and Xiaomi. Are they really catching up to Tesla in terms of, innovation?
Oh, they're definitely making strides, especially when it comes to what's called software-defined vehicles, or SDVs. Think of it like this. SDVs are a new way to design cars, where software is really at the heart of everything, allowing for, those advanced driver assistance systems and over-the-air updates, all that cool stuff. There was actually a recent SDV ranking, and it showed that these Chinese companies are right up there with Tesla, really pushing the boundaries of what's possible with electric vehicles.
So it's not just about building a good electric car anymore. It's about all the software and technology that goes into it too. Makes sense. So aside from the competition, what are some other risks that Tesla's facing right now?
Well, there are the ongoing supply chain challenges,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to sourcing those battery packs. And those constraints can really limit production and affect their delivery times.
Right.
Plus, the transition to that new Model Y could cause some temporary hiccups in production as they ramp up manufacturing.
Okay, yeah. Those are definitely things to keep an eye on. But there's one more factor we can't ignore when we're talking about Tesla, and that's the Elon Musk factor. He's such a prominent figure, and his vision is so closely tied to the company. How do you see that playing out in the long run?
It's kind of a double-edged sword. On one hand, Elon Musk's leadership has definitely been a driving force for innovation, and he's attracted a ton of investors. But on the other hand, his unpredictability and, sometimes his controversial actions, those can create some volatility for the company.
Yeah, you're right. It's like a constant source of news and speculation. Speaking of speculation, we managed to get our hands on some insider trading reports. Anything interesting in there?
Actually, yeah, there was one thing that stood out to me. Kimball Musk, who's Elon's brother and a board member at Tesla, he recently sold a significant chunk of his Tesla shares. Now, insider selling doesn't always mean bad news, but it can sometimes indicate that those close to the company have some concerns about the stock's short-term performance.
Hmm. That's definitely something to consider. So let's try to put all this together. Tesla has a lot of potential, but they're also facing some significant challenges. And their stock price is currently higher than its fair value estimate, which is basically a calculation of what the stock should be worth based on financial factors. And that suggests that the market might be a little too optimistic about their near-term prospects.
Exactly. There's a lot of hope and hype built into that price, especially around the success of FSD. But if that technology doesn't live up to expectations, the stock could see a correction. And that's something that investors need to be prepared for.
All of this makes Tesla a pretty interesting case study,
Hmm.
especially for those who might be thinking about investing. So what should people be paying attention to in the coming months? What are some of the key indicators of, their success or potential trouble ahead?
Well, I think it's important to keep an eye on the rollout of that more affordable vehicle model. If it's successful, it could really expand their market share and boost sales.
Okay. What about FSD? What kind of progress should we be looking for there?
I think any news about regulatory approval for FSD would be huge. And of course, any partnerships or licensing agreements with other automakers, those would be really strong signals that FSD is gaining some serious traction. But on the flip side, if there are continued delays or setbacks with technology, well, that would definitely raise some concerns.
Makes sense. So what about potential red flags? Like what should make investors nervous?
I'd say keep a close eye on those automotive margins we talked about. If they keep shrinking, it could mean Tesla's having trouble maintaining profitability. And also watch out for any production issues or delays with that new Model Y. Those could really impact their growth trajectory.
Yeah, so there sounds like there are a lot of factors at play here, some
Mhm.
positive, some negative. A company with huge potential, but also some big risks, like a real-life business drama unfolding right in front of us.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what makes Tesla so fascinating to follow. I mean, regardless of what happens in the short term, they've already had a massive impact on the entire automotive industry, really accelerating the shift towards electric vehicles.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point. They've definitely pushed the boundaries and shown everyone that sustainable technology can be exciting and desirable. So as we wrap up this deep dive into Tesla, I want to leave you with this question. What aspects of Tesla's journey are you most interested in following? What factors will you be watching most closely in the coming year?
Yeah, that's a great question to think about. Because the company has so many moving parts, it's really hard to predict exactly what the future holds for them. But that's part of what makes it so intriguing.
Exactly. And that's what we love about doing these deep dives, exploring these complex topics and trying to make sense of it all with you. So if you enjoyed this deep dive into Tesla, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel and hit that bell icon so you don't miss any of our future episodes.
We've got a ton of great deep dives planned, covering everything from the latest in tech to, even the mysteries of the universe. We're so excited to explore it all with you. Until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.